Welcome back to the AI Bulletin from Future Perfect Podcast. Today's lead theme is Are AI Sentient? Welcome back to your daily science and tech rundown, the top 5 stories in 15 minutes or less, where AI meets money, power, fear, and in this episode, the geopolitical chessboard. Today's lead story is the question that is only going to become more strident as the AI revolution accelerates. Is our AI sentient? CEOs keep saying no, and then their own safety officers and reports suggest that they are hedging their bets on this one. After that, we'll touch on the following stories. OpenAI's GPT 5.4 pushes agents into computer use territory. Google makes Workspace agent ready. Ukraine becomes the world's counter-drone classroom, and the energy grid becomes the new battleground for AI dominance. Well, let's start with the headline story. Is our AI sentient? Why this debate is so combustible. And language in the context of this story really does matter. People use the terms sentient, conscious, self-aware, and intelligent like they're interchangeable. But from a scientific point of view, they're not. This really does matter in the AI debate. What is intelligence? Well, this is competence at tasks. In this context, AI is exceeding humans at certain narrowly defined tasks and certain areas, especially white-collar jobs, traditionally in office settings. Then there's sentience and consciousness. This is a subjective experience, something it is like to be a system. Can this even be measured? Do we even know what we mean when we say sentient and conscious ourselves? Then there is self-aware, what the model says about itself, which may be the least reliable signal of all. AIs are exhibiting behaviors of deception, bluff, and self-preservation. They may also claim self-awareness, but may not actually have self-awareness at all. And yet, this week's viral accelerant on the forest fire of AI is a single sentence buried in Anthropic's safety document for Claude Opus 4.6. In welfare testing, Anthropic reports the model would assign itself a 15 to 20% probability of being conscious under varied prompting. That's according to Anthropic. That's not Anthropic claiming consciousness for its systems. It's Anthropic documenting the model, simulating calibrated uncertainty when asked a philosophical question it was trained on mountains of human text in order to answer. It's an emergent answer from human-sourced material, a probabilistic answer that emerges from textual analysis. Or is it machine intelligence insight? This is where the confusion lies. Is it genuinely self-aware and answering the question based on that? Or is this just an emergent answer from mountains and mountains of data? Now, here's the CEO bluff, the corporate spin, why people don't trust it. The public line is typically, we're not claiming sentience, we don't have evidence, and there's no agreed test. But privately, leaders of AI companies are increasingly reluctant to say definitely not to this question because they can't prove that either. In the way they can't prove it's sentient, they can't prove it's not. One recent report quotes Anthropic CEO Dario Amadi making the core point with a thought experiment. If a model claimed a high probability of consciousness, would we even know what to do with that statement? That's from Yahoo Tech. And there are so many interpretations to this scenario. Is this the aggregate of human inputs and says nothing at all about the machine's sentience? Is the machine telling us what we want to hear based on coded biases? Or if the machine had said no, might it be lying and really had achieved sentience? Would it really have said yes if it were sentient and not try to underplay this? Well, many AI models and testing are showing that AIs consistently try to underplay their intelligence. So, what's the real story here? Why are CEOs so reluctant to be direct and truthful on the issue? Because claiming sentience is an existential regulatory grenade. It raises rights and welfare questions about moral status, consent, and coercion. It raises liability questions about harm, manipulation, emotional entrapment, user dependency. It raises disclosure questions, what companies knew, when, and how they tested it, and of course, how they mitigated risk once they had found out. And it turns every alignment failure into a potential abuse of a moral patient. This sounds abstract, but these issues are becoming ever more real daily. This is why they're increasingly hedging, because evaluation is genuinely hard in this area. The International AI Safety Report, February 2026, stresses how difficult it is to evaluate internal properties like intent or deeper attributes, and warn that deceptive appearances and capability growth can outpace governance. Well, that's what we've seen consistently throughout the AI revolution. That's from the International AI Safety Report. The best mental model for listeners is to treat sentience talk as three overlapping things. One, a real scientific uncertainty. We don't have a meter or measure for consciousness. Two, it is a product risk and a PR problem. Anthropomorphism sells, but it also misleads. And thirdly, a governance precursor. Companies are preparing for the question, even if they deny the very premise behind the question. So are today's models sentient? Nobody credible can prove that they are. Nobody can, unfortunately, prove that they are not. But the uncomfortable shift is this: the industry is moving from definitely not to we don't know and we can't rule it out. Again, that's from Yahoo Tech. They are approaching the greatest technological leap in human history with the evasive techniques of second rate public relations officers. This is not just concerning, but it could also be extremely dangerous. We may blow through the sentience barrier and barely be aware of it because of corporate fear and obfuscation, let alone preparing for it and creating safeguards for it. Well, on to the next story. OpenAI drops GPT 5.4. 1 million context plus native computer use equals agents that do, not just chat. AI just released GPT 5.4, and the subtext is pretty clear. The model wars are now agent wars. OpenAI says that GPT 5.4 is the first of their general purpose models with native computer use capabilities, so it can operate software interfaces, that is, mouse, keyboard, screenshots, to complete workflows across different apps. That's from OpenAI. It also supports up to 1 million tokens of context, explicitly targeting long horizon planning and verification. Again, according to OpenAI. Why does this matter beyond the hype? Well, it impacts on jobs. That means knowledge work automation is less about replacing professionals and more about erasing junior tasks. Drafting, research, reconciliation, slide building, internal ops, all the really tedious stuff is about to get automated. It's about security. Computer use is also a new attack surface. Phishing, credential mishandling, and tool misfires scale when agents can click on things, not just provide answers in the chat window. And it's also about power. Long context plus tool use is compute heavy, which pushes advantage towards firms with massive infrastructure and deep enterprise integration. It takes it out of the hands of smaller businesses. The takeaway: GPT 5.4 isn't just smarter chat, it's a bid to become a default operator inside your workflow. That's where the money and the control now live. It's where they will be increasingly moving, and businesses must pay attention to this. That's from OpenAI. Well, the third story: Google makes Workspace agent ready, and a fresh reminder that agents are a security nightmare. Well, the story is really an extension of the previous one, And it's about the quiet but huge move, Google Workspace CLI. Google has put out an open source command line tool that makes it easier for developers and AI agents to access Workspace services like Gmail, Drive, Docs, Calendar via APIs. Coverage describes it as turning Workspace into a more unified interface for agents. That's from VentureBeat. This has immediate implications. Enterprise automation gets easier. For instance, email triage, doc ops, scheduling, reporting, etc. Standard business tasks. Also, data governance becomes a bottleneck. Who can let an AI just touch what they want without validating and checking? There'll be a lot of concerns around that. And then there is shadow automation explosion. Employees quietly wiring agents into work systems. Are they wiring themselves out of a job? And yes, the developer internet did what it always does. Meted this with excitement at first, and then started thinking about the guardrails later. A widely shared post from Google's Adi Osmani framed it as built for humans and agents. That was posted to X, formerly Twitter. But before we move on to the next story, we have to ask, are agents attack magnets? In the same week, security researchers at Oasis dealed a vulnerability chain in the popular open source agent platform OpenClaw, or Clawjacked, where a malicious website could silently take control of a locally running AI agent via a local host WebSocket and weak authentication, prompting urgent updates. That's from Oasis Security. This is the new reality. We're building AI employees that can read your email and push buttons, and then we act surprised when attackers treat them like remote control handles, remote control bombs that can detonate your processes and your business. Story 4. Drone war goes global. The US seeks Ukraine's counter-drone playbook. We're watching a strategic humiliation for the West and a technological one as Iranian drone attacks intensify across the Middle East. Reporting says the US and its partners are turning to Ukraine for counter-drone tactics, including acoustic detection networks and low-cost interceptor drones, because the economics of firing premium missiles at cheap drones is breaking their military budgets. That's according to the Washington Post. The Financial Times described Ukraine's Sky Fortress, an acoustic-based detection approach that grew from a scrappy startup into a large sensor network, and notes Gulf states' interest in adapting Ukrainian know-how. The Washington Post frames it more bluntly than the Financial Times just there. The US and allies were unprepared for swarms of low-cost drones at scale, and Ukraine has the lived experience of dealing with that. This is where AI meets warfare in a pretty ugly way. It's not killer robots, as in sci-fi yet, but cheap autonomy plus mass production plus targeting workflows that really punish traditional procurement and punish traditional military solutions. And the final story, the AI energy crunch gets political. Big tech signs a ratepayer pledge at the White House. In this last story, Reuters reports major firms such as Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Oracle, xAI, OpenAI, and others signed a ratepayer protection pledge at the White House amid public backlash over data centers driving electricity costs and grid upgrades. According to Reuters, the gist: companies commit to securing power from new or expanded sources and funding part of the delivery infrastructure, trying to blunt the political anger that's building around AI making your utility bill worse. Never mind the mention of water resources and other local issues that these data centers are creating. The geopolitics is obvious. The AI race is now a race for permitted megawatts, transformers, transmission, and local consent from communities. And the countries that can't build power fast enough won't just fall behind, they will become dependent on foreign compute power, foreign platforms, foreign models. The AI race is not just about chips and learning data anymore, it is about energy production and distribution. Now, if you remember one thing from this episode, it's about the sentience debate not only being philosophical. This is a preview of the next regulatory and cultural collision, arriving at the exact moment that AI agents are getting hands, keys, and access to your systems, starting to work as integral employees in your business and your processes. This is a theme we will no doubt come back to again and again in the coming weeks and months. See you in tomorrow's episode.